Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video. And honestly, today this is just going to be kind of a relaxed video discussion. I'm once again joined by Mike over there from Laughingstock Media. Mike, why don't you say hello to everyone listening?
Hey guys, it's Mike here from Laughingstock Media, and I'm ready to discuss some Dragon Ball Super.
Very nice, very nice. All right, okay guys, so you saw the thumbnail, you saw the title, you know we're going to be talking about basically just general discussion, like I said, open about like what are they going to do after Dragon Ball Super ends. And it doesn't have to even necessarily end. We all know that Dragon Ball Super is basically the Goku and Vegeta show. Dragon Ball in general is just the Goku show. Like, they're never not going to focus away from Goku. But as we've talked about like Beyond and so many times before, that there's just so much character, there's so much potential for other stories and other events that can be told somewhere along the lines in Dragon Ball Super, that we just don't necessarily want to see that stuff given up. We don't want them to basically just write off these characters, these situations, and all this awesome stuff that they could be introducing. So basically an open discussion about what it is that they could be doing. What stories can they build that can take place in the same universe, either in different universes, in the past, like a prequel type of thing, or even just, I mean, in the future with other characters that we've been introduced to but aren't necessarily old enough to hold their own series at this point. So with that being said, I have talked about this before, and I want Mike's opinion before he can give his ideas about what he would like to see. But I would really like to see Goten and Trunks in the future, a spin-off series or a quote-unquote sequel to Dragon Ball Super in the future, where instead of staying on Earth and everything like that, they grow up and they go and join the Galactic Patrol, not the Pride Troopers. They go and join the Galactic Patrol, and then it's just like this buddy cop with Goten, Trunks, and then Jocko. And then also, if you want to kind of put in that whole Bulma female being the real smart person in the group and everything else, you could bring back Tights to actually be that type of person, to go in between and like kind of play the smart tech person while they go off, and they'd have this kind of procedural buddy cop drama show where Goten and Trunks are not necessarily good at their jobs, not because they're not good enforcers, but because they're too strong, and they basically use their strength as this huge liability for everything that basically is put into this series, where instead of them having to overcome something, they basically have to hold themselves back, and they always get chastised about all this stuff they're actually doing in this series. To like, they go well beyond their authority to do everything that they have to do in every episode, so it's just them getting yelled at all the time, and it's much more played for humor than any action purposes. So that's something I would really like to see. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, it sounds like a really cool idea for a show, because honestly, Goten and Trunks haven't really gotten that much development or usage in Dragon Ball Super. It always seems like they're kind of just like characters that are mentioned or shown briefly, but they don't really accomplish or do anything. Like in the Battle of Gods arc, Goten and Trunks fused into Gotenks so that they could fight Beerus, and they accomplished nothing, even though realistically they should have been more powerful than Goku or Vegeta. And then in the Resurrection F arc, you know, they weren't even in the movie, but in the arc, they fly in, they headbutt Tagoma right in the junk, and they immediately defuse. But, you know, there was a cool moment where Frieza looked at them and he's like, wait a second, I recognize them. But that didn't even go anywhere. Like, I thought it would have been really interesting if, you know, they fought Frieza and then Frieza might have killed them, so that, you know, Goku and Vegeta would have the incentive to fight him, you know. But there's a lot of problems with the Resurrection F, Universe Survival arc, and the previous arc of the Universal Tournament. Even the Black arc, they didn't really do much. During the Black arc, though, Trunks did kind of have some, like, development when he was facing off with his future version. But again, I think it would be good to have like a series pretty much focused around them. And honestly, like, there's so many characters in Dragon Ball in the franchise that would be good to have a series or a spin-off focused around them. Another member of the Z Fighters I feel like would be really interesting to have a show, and this is kind of like just a personal thing I kind of want because I think it would be fun, would be Yamcha. And I think just having Yamcha have like his own baseball anime and have him be like this unstoppable, unbeatable baseball player, and have his team go up against other teams that are like, you know, comically over the top, like evil, and like they have like different themes about them, would be really fun. You know, maybe even throw Yamcha's team into like a dark tournament kind of situation where they're all like doing baseball to the death. And the ball has like razor wire on it or something. And if it hits you, you die. You know, there would be so much fun stuff they could do with that. And there's a lot of other ideas I think they could explore.
I completely agree with that. Just Yamcha himself is so charismatic of a character. He would be an interesting protagonist in a show that was not necessarily geared towards fighting. I think that would be pretty awesome too. Another person that could have a procedural cop type of thing is Krillin. I mean, the guy became an officer in this particular show, so having him kind of get in his wacky adventures would be something that would be pretty cool to see. But that's a little bit too similar and not as, I guess, far-reaching as having Goten and Trunks be with Jaco. Another thing I would actually really like to see is being like kind of a spin-off manga or even just a really short 12-episode anime is kind of harking back to the good old days of Dragon Ball, the original series, where you have basically Goku and Bulma going back and looking for the Dragon Balls for something that's completely useless, like a useless wish that won't get you anywhere. But instead of Goku and Bulma, you retell that, or you kind of have the same similar fun dynamic between Pan and Bra, where they're both in this situation and they're both a little too strong for, like, they're both a little too strong and headstrong, not necessarily smart enough, or maybe even just, I guess, they're too immature to figure out exactly all the damage that they're doing as they're going and looking for the Dragon Balls for one thing or another. It's not something that can last as long as Dragon Ball did, but just showing that particular dynamic between those two characters. Because, as I've said in other videos, Pan is an interesting character that could probably potentially, and was introduced in such a way that she was probably the closest to what Goku was at the beginning of Dragon Ball, the original series. And we don't necessarily know anything about Pan. They can literally do anything they want with Pan going into the future of Dragon Ball. They can make her strong like Vegeta. They can make her kind of headstrong and smart like Bulma. They can do anything like that. And having those two characters basically take up the mantle of Goku and Bulma and restart the series in a really fun, interesting, really low stakes way, where it's not like you basically do the first 13 episodes of GT, but it's not like, if we don't get these balls back on Earth and in the same place and everything, and within a year the whole world's gonna blow up. It's not like that big of stakes. It's just literally they're going out to find boyfriends or something like that harks back, and you get to see all this like kind of fun nostalgia, winks to the original series without having actually too much to look forward to. There's no reason why they're not going Super Saiyan. There's no reason why they're not using all their power. They're just having fun and getting into trouble that way. It would be interesting, like all of these things that we've talked about so far, is just see a show where, I guess, the shonen material, the whole fighting in order to survive or any of that stuff isn't the main focus, and we start looking at it in terms of either being a comedy or a sports drama or any of this other stuff that would be really kind of cool.
Yeah, and speaking of the Pan and Bra storyline and general show, I feel like that also does have a lot of room to grow and expand, because, again, Dragon Ball started off as, Bulma's looking for the Dragon Balls to find a boyfriend, basically, and Yamcha wants to wish away his fear of women, and Goku just kind of wants to be with his grandfather's Dragon Ball. So imagine, like maybe Pan after the first arc of looking for the Dragon Balls is like, oh, so let's go have my father Gohan teach us, and Gohan kind of fills the role of the master, like Master Roshi, and so eventually, they want to enter like the World Martial Arts Tournament. Obviously, they're more powerful than everyone there, except for some new up-and-coming kids who are also really strong, and they have to fight them. There's a lot of room for improvement or growth in that area in that show as well. Another show I do think would be a really cool idea to have a spin-off for, or to have kind of just its own continuity in some ways, would be a Ginyu Force show. And that's because I think it would be really interesting to see all the dynamics of the Ginyu Force leading up to the events that happened on Namek, with pretty much all of their deaths except for Captain Ginyu, as we saw in Dragon Ball Super. But ultimately, I think it would be a really fun idea for a show where we would see all of these members of the team interacting, all of their backstories, how they all ended up in the Ginyu Force, how Frieza recruited them, and maybe even seeing Captain Ginyu's original form. And I know you've actually talked about this in a video before in the past, and I believe I have as well. So what do you think about that general idea?
I actually really like it. As I've said in the past, I'm just really not a huge fan of the Ginyu Force. I feel like, and as we were talking before we actually started recording this, is they're just not really that much interesting. They're very flashy, which makes them an interesting pick for some kind of a spin-off or some other series that they could do for those particular characters, because they are characters, more so than most other people that were introduced in that arc. Yeah. They are characters. They could probably, the different personalities and the group dynamic could really hold its own in a particular show. And that would be really kind of interesting to see just in general, because the big thing I think there, and this would require some really heavy-hitting writing, is being able to trick us about Ginyu's original form, although it's pretty clear, although I think it's still debatable whether that is Ginyu's original form. But I mean, just in general, it looks like it, doesn't it? It doesn't look like it. I mean,
yeah, I've always kind of had the impression that Ginyu was not in his original form. And also, I feel like what Jace says when Ginyu was about to use his move against Goku kind of implies that, because he's like, he's really going to do it. So maybe even Jace has seen Captain Ginyu change bodies in the past to the body that he had when he was on Namek. So I think it would be really interesting if he didn't go into that body, maybe even till like the end of the series. Like, they could even do a 28-episode series, or 26 episodes, like a normal anime tends to be. Just have Ginyu in his original form the entire time leading up to that. Maybe he actually discovers the technique on some random planet, like a Yardrak kind of planet, where he learns how to change bodies with people, and that's when he, finds the most powerful body he's ever seen with the Captain Ginyu body, and he changes with him. So I think it would be really interesting if they did something along those lines.
Yeah, one thing, it'd be kind of cool. I know this isn't necessarily something that would be amazing, but maybe there was more than just the original 5 that we saw. Maybe all this other stuff. I mean, just figure out a way that, what if the whole point is Ginyu using that technique to basically climb the ranks to be the captain of the Ginyu Force and wasn't the original? And
what if Ginyu was like a bum on the street and he just started taking people's bodies and pretending to be them?
Yeah, exactly. Like he just uses it to kind of climb the ranks, which is kind of exactly what it looks like he does throughout the original arc of Dragon Ball Z, where he was willing to take Goku's body because Goku's body was going to mean that he was going to be that much stronger. And then of course he couldn't figure out how to use the body because Goku's techniques and everything are very complicated, because I mean, the thing I've always thought about that is that nothing of Goku's is natural to him. He didn't come up with it.
Yeah.
I mean, just considering that and how he used Tagoma wasn't necessarily technique or anything. It was just he had a really strong body, so he didn't have to use anything. And the Ginyu is basically he's a fighting genius anyway, so he was just able to utilize that technique better.
Yeah.
Or, utilize that body better than Tagoma was at that point. And that would be interesting to me. I mean, to be honest, the cool thing, instead of having more people, because if they had more people other than the 5 people that we knew in that group, then we would feel or it would be kind of obvious to be oh, okay, one of these people is the original Ginyu. But wouldn't it be cool if, he stole the bodies within the Ginyu Force, and then all of them are just accepting of it because now he's in the original body, or he's in the strongest body and they can't fight him, or something like that. What if the original Ginyu's body was Goldo?
Yeah.
And And now he has to, like, and he basically moves his way up the ranks or actually steals Ginyu's body or something, and they just live with it. I know I think that would kind of destroy the dynamic, because they obviously, there's no resentment there.
Well, I think it would be really interesting, though, if, like, it basically starts out where, like, all the original members of the Ginyu Force were, like, totally different people, and Ginyu just happened to have, like, friends of his that, like, were weak and were basically cast aside. They were all outcasts who, you know, society has looked down on, and who Frieza nobody really saw value in. So he starts, like, taking over their bodies and then swapping them with his friends, like, over and over until, like, he replaces the entire team, kind of like you were saying. Like, I think that would be really interesting. I mean, they would all start out kind of as friends, but, I mean, it would be also kind of interesting to see people who don't even have military experience and are just getting used to these bodies coming in and then being like, oh no, we actually have to go to these other planets and fight for our lives. We weren't doing that before. We were just eating out of the trash, you know? So there's just a lot of fun I think they could have with that show.
Plus, it would be actually pretty fun if all this was going on in the background and Frieza didn't really know about it. I mean, I guess he does see it in Super and he doesn't necessarily care, but it would be interesting if, like, he didn't know about it. So, like, when they did show up on Planet Namek, as we see, and they do their, like, Tokusentai, like, they do their little dance, and he's, like, embarrassed about it. Like, that's the first time he's ever seeing it, because all these people are new.
Yeah.
And like, their like, the whole, like, it was 5 of the same species bottom feeders, but Ginyu had this unique power that he's been basically sneaking and stealing the elite force of the Frieza squad. Like, just basically the elite Frieza forces, and basically swapping them out with his friends so everyone could be in a good position. Like, that would actually be something really interesting to see, pretty funny. And even though they're bottom feeders, they're all just really like eccentric in their own way.
Yeah.
And then, like, also playing off the idea that the Ginyu Force was this elite force that didn't, like, you know, took like zero fucks and was, like, really elite and didn't clown around, didn't do any of this stuff, and then they changed the total dynamic of it before the Namekian saga. So that would be pretty cool. But kind of going off that, I mean, in the same vein, though, there's, like, you don't even have to really do a sequel or a prequel with the Ginyu Force, although if you wanted to play off the dynamic that Ginyu has this unique ability, and we want to show how that was utilized, like we were just talking about, you could do essentially the same thing as a spin-off of the Pride Troopers, because they're kind of the same, flashy type of for justice and everything else. Plus, they're so strong. I want to know why Universe 11 decided that they need to have a group that's as strong as they are. I mean, just taking Jiren and Toppo, for example. And what have they been doing? Like, why do they feel like those people have to stay together? Because it's weird to me. Like, it's really weird that these people decide that they needed to... They need to be together for justice. Like, what are they taking out? Like, what are the threats that they've had to deal with throughout the entire run? So getting a little bit more explanation through a spin-off, or a manga spin-off, or even just, like, a 26 episode anime would be really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe in this case with the Pride Troopers, they were just so powerful that, like, maybe instead of deciding to do evil, they just decide to do good. I mean, it's kind of like, I guess, the Saiyans from Universe 6, where they're all powerful, obviously, you know, like, just one of them who might not even be the most powerful Saiyan shows up and is on Team Universe 6 and is able to go, like, toe-to-toe with Base Vegeta after all this training, and Base Vegeta is more powerful than, like, every Saiyan who pretty much ever lived at that point, you know, like... Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe they just decided to be good in this case instead of evil. And really, a lot of the things that happened in Universe 7, I feel like for characters who became evil, was probably out of necessity, because this super powerful being called Frieza shows up, and he's like, okay, so you're going to do my dirty work, or I'm going to blow up your planet without even transforming. You know, I'm so much more powerful than every single one of you combined. And they were just like, okay, you know, so... I could see it being like that in this case. Frost in Universe 6 pretended to be good. And also, maybe it's just that, like, Topo is so much more powerful. Topo and Jiren are just so much more powerful than every other member of the group, and they were just good that the other members are just like, yeah, I don't want to fight this guy, so I'm just going to do whatever he tells me to do and be good, So I think that would be a really fun idea for a show.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see, like, what is, maybe, like, an idea of, like, how Topo and Jiren came together and how that was actually formed would be something just as interesting. Or, if not, just, like, on the same part of the Ginyu Force show or spinoff or whatever that would be. It would be just as interesting, just kind of a different dynamic without the whole body-switching technique or stuff like that. That would actually bring it to that much more of a next level. So with all that said, because of Ginyu's technique and how unique it is, that's probably why a Ginyu Force movie or spin-off or something like that, prequel series, would probably be more worth it, because you could play around with that more so than just doing something for brute force and just cool looking characters doing cool things. Do you have any more?
I think even an idea of, like, Hit having his own spin-off series, for example, which I've also talked about in the past, Hit just being this legendary assassin, how he came up, how he learned how to become an assassin, all the people and all the missions he's had to go on, maybe, like, in a number of different episodes or, like, a number of different, like, arcs, like, the climax will be like, okay, now I'm going to show you this other secret special technique I've never used before, So it could be, like, an excuse for Hit to try out cool new moves and, like, to develop characters around him, because I'm not sure if Hit can necessarily carry an entire series on his own. I think it's possible, but it would be cool to have, like, some really good, strong supporting characters as well, that most of the tension would probably be on their parts. Maybe Hit has to rescue them. Maybe they're originally, like, his adversaries, So I think that Hit would be another really strong character to do a show about.
When it comes to Hit, the one thing I would really want them to do, just going into a spin-off or a show like that, is basically explain away some of the weird things that we've seen with Hit thus far, especially in the original tournament that he was introduced in. Is there has to be a backstory and a reason why he can use this. Basically, he can use the Tokotobashi. Why is it exactly that he wanted the cube in order to go around? I mean, what is his whole point there? Has he always been this kind of stern figure where he doesn't necessarily look like he cares about anyone else? And how did Goku change that? Or what did Goku basically awaken in him? The potential there, if you have a good writer working on it, is you explore those little character personality traits and you give reason for them, and you show, like, when you, after all is said and done with, like, a 24 episode series or a 26 episode series, even a spin-off manga or something every month, you get to see, like, how is it that Hit became Hit, and how is it that Hit, all these, like, things that we saw in that tournament arc relate to something like what we saw in what, like, the character things that we saw. Like, why did he want the cube, but why did he give it up so easily? And how did he get this power, but why has he never had the reason or wherewithal to actually improve the way he did when he fought Goku? It's like you said, it's like the people in Universe 6 aren't kind of weak. You have Kaba basically going in his base form, being able to compete with Vegeta's base form, like, on par, at least what it seemed like, not holding back. But at the same time, you also express that, for whatever reason, as strong as Frost is, as compared to, the original Frieza that we saw in the Namekian saga, or the Frieza saga, in his first form, it's stated that he has to go into his third form, and that's his battle form, where he goes and fights wars in that form. And it's just to me, it's wondering, like, how much stronger is everyone in Universe 6, so much that everyone's afraid of Hit, but the Saiyans are competing at this particular level, and then Frieza, or Frost's character, has to go into his penultimate form in order to actually fight people in these wars that he starts in secret. So there has to have been someone that could have pushed Hit that much further, and why, or even just push him enough to begin with that actually gave him the ability to do what he does. So that would be really interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, Universe 6 definitely seems more powerful. I don't know if that has anything to do with the mortal level. We're still not trying to make those connections necessarily, but they are ranked higher than Universe 7. So ultimately, I feel like there's a lot of, room for expanding the lore of Dragon Ball. We have 12 universes, and then we have multiple timelines, which have 12 universes themselves as well. So there's so much room to explore, even in Universe 7, but then we could have Universe 6, Universe 8, Universe 10, Universe 12, so on and so forth, that I feel like there's so much they could do with this show after Dragon Ball Super and with this franchise, and I would certainly be interested to see it. I want less of the Yamcha person as reincarnated as Yamcha in the Dragon Ball universe kind of spin-off, and more stuff like we've described in this video.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what you're saying, like multiple universes, so much potential, but also, yeah, multiple timelines with their own multiple universes. One thing that I would like to see, just going back real quick, both to Hit and the Pride Troopers, is, we had Black basically take out the entire god structure of those universes, just playing off of that for 1 second. Like, it would be really interesting, because what Black did shouldn't have negated Hit, or shouldn't have negated the Pride Troopers. It would be really interesting to see the Pride Troopers decide that after all the gods of destruction are basically taken out, because they love justice and everything so much, that they decide to police the entirety of like all 12 universes. So they actually get the cubes and they go in between and stop people. And that way, so it doesn't, you can have it make sense in terms of the broader scope of Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball in general, without actually having to destroy their own timeline. So that would be interesting.
I mean, Black and Zamasu killing all the gods didn't really make that much sense to begin with when you think about it, because it's not like every single god would be asleep. And some of them seem to have pretty good relationships with their Kaioshins, so they'd probably be hanging out with them at the time that Black and Zamasu showed up. So it's Dragon Ball. They didn't think about this stuff when they were writing it.
Exactly, they didn't think about any of this stuff. But look, they can always come back to it. The one thing I've always said is Dragon Ball has so many interesting concepts, so many interesting characters that they can literally base all this stuff on. They just need to have someone who loves the story enough and loves these characters enough to give fans what they want. And honestly, I know there's this difference between Western and Eastern audiences and what we expect in story and what we expect in, like, they don't care as much as we do. But I do think, and it's hard for me to imagine that they don't believe, or they just really don't see that there is some benefit in telling well-crafted stories that's not just basically a sitcom with fights.
Absolutely.
So anyway, guys, with that being said, we're going to leave it at that. Please make sure to go into the description section below, click on that link, and go support Mike from Laughingstock Media. The guy makes some really awesome content for you guys. So hopefully you go over there if you haven't already. I'm sure most people who have listened to this also know who this guy is and probably are already subbed to him. So, but if you're not and you haven't, please make sure to go do that. And guys, like I always say, please go down to the comment section below and tell us what you think about this. Any spin-offs or something that you think that we missed, or any of the other stuff that you think that would have been really interesting to see in the future of Dragon Ball. Just is expanding the lore and going beyond that of Dragon Ball Super. But with that being said, I hope everyone enjoyed the video and has a nice day.
See you later.
Bye.